kind words. And without further ado, I call upon the Prime Minister of the Government to take the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, despite what an obvious number of you people in the audience believe, we from Oxford are actually quite nice people. That's why we believe in maximising the potential of everybody in the world. That's why we think that the birth lottery is not a great thing, ladies and gentlemen. Just because we're from Oxford doesn't automatically mean that we're going to win this debate. We do actually have to work towards that, ladies and gentlemen, particularly when you all like Tel Aviv more than us. So today, in my speech, I'm going to be showing you, first of all, why we believe that there is fundamentally something wrong with the birth lottery. And then I'm going to be showing you why, by eradicating the birth lottery, that means that if you're born in a certain country, you're automatically entitled to something more, is actually beneficial not just to the individual who's harmed by that, but also to the world as a whole, ladies and gentlemen. So let's look first of all at this idea of the birth lottery. We don't believe that what your potential depends on the history of your country, ladies and gentlemen. Essentially, borders are entirely artificial. There is no reason that the border, for example, between the United States and Mexico should be where it is, other than the fact that the United States have won a war at some point in their history. We don't think that that means that Mexicans born in Mexico under a state system means that these people should be disadvantaged by not having many of the legal protections that are provided by the United States law. No, thank you. We think that we must establish, when we're talking about the birth lottery, that there are two different types of birth lottery that may affect an individual. First of all, we have the kind of birth lottery that we've all just spent 2 hours listening to that was discussed in the ESL file. Those are the kind of things that affect individual personhood, ladies and gentlemen. What height they are, what colour they are, what kind of intelligence people have. We think that that's something that's quite distinct from artificially created social constructs, ladies and gentlemen, like borders of a state. We think that that's because these conditions relate to that individual person and their sense of personhood, ladies and gentlemen. But we also accept that where these things do harm that individual's potential, we should act to eradicate that. That's why we do have things like race laws, ladies and gentlemen. What we want to do on the proposition is wipe out the differences that come from these artificial social constructs. And we want the opposition to prove to us today why they believe that those artificial social constructs are enough to justify discrimination against many people. We say that when you come to a country, all that is necessary of residing within that country is having to abide by the social contract of that country there. We believe that you have to live by the conditions of that society. We don't put the constraints upon entering that country. The constraints should be upon something that happens within that country, ladies and gentlemen. The problem with the birth lottery, ladies and gentlemen, is that any benefit that derives from the birth lottery that puts you in one state or another accrues at the expense of other people, ladies and gentlemen, who aren't able to access the same kind of standards that you're able to have. Because you're born in one country means that you get better protections under the laws of that country, and we think that's dangerous. We think that actually the birth lottery, what it does is it gives you certain levels of potential with your future life, ladies and gentlemen. But we don't think that something like wealth automatically creates utility. We think that actually it's what you do with that money that gives you the benefits within society. We think that things like windfall lotteries are indistinguishable from stealing wealth, ladies and gentlemen. And we would all view that stealing a large sum of money, millions of pounds that you might win in a lottery, ladies and gentlemen, is unjust. And we don't see why there are these two different things. If governments recognise that inequality is something that is harmful in the state of nature, and therefore they try to rectify that within society, we don't see why they should be sticking so strongly to these artificial state constructs. Yes, ma'am.
If you believe in the social contract, contract, and you believe that that social contract is a fair contract, why don't you believe that both sides should have to be party to making that contract?
We believe that the social contract arises within the people who are in certain societies, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that there is nothing that should stop you from joining any other social contract, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we believe that the restriction should be upon entering, should not be upon entry of a country, but being able to participate within that social contract. I fail to see why social contracts should be defined by state boundaries, ladies and gentlemen. I have to now move on to the idea of how this improves the general utility of people receiving the certain qualities they get in the other kind of birth lottery that I've talked about, for example, their own intelligence. We believe that what this does is it increases the total utility of the world, because we enable people to move around the world and get benefits. First of all, they get benefits to themselves, ladies and gentlemen. They're able to move to a country which may have an infrastructure that is able to support the certain talents they have and enables them to become wealthy individuals, fulfilled individuals, happy individuals. We like that, ladies and gentlemen. But what this also leads to is a free market of nation-based. What happens at the moment is that one nation becomes overcrowded. That then stops people from entering that country because governments place restrictions on the immigration laws. We don't think that that's necessarily beneficial to that country. What might be more beneficial to that country is if they were then able to accept more people into that country, maybe buy some land, expand the country. We don't think that these national boundaries are as distinct as the opposition assume they are. We also see that what this would allow is, because of this free market, it means that when we have overpopulation in one country, people are incentivized to move to another country. So we see the distribution of people in society going to the countries which they can utilize the most. We think that, okay, there may be short-term harms with a country initially flooded with people, but we think that because of this free market, we're going to balance these out ultimately and get what's best for the world. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what we want for the world. We want a country where people are happy in the country they are in, not the country they are born in, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the only way to achieve this.